Hello, Runehammer Clan. Hello, Grumpy Owls. It is I, Huck Runehammer, here, bringing you another edition of Builders University, and today we will be talking about terrain and building inside of not only your terrain, but your biome. And you're going to figure out exactly what I mean by this pretty quickly. Now, I'm starting here at Xanta because this is a really good example with what Ixen is doing of sometimes you just have to master the terrain to do what you want, to meet your end goals. Sometimes the terrain isn't ideal for the projects that you want, and you have to take it into your own hands and basically demolish the terrain. And a lot of people do this, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it, especially when you're building on this scale and you just have to clear out a large portion of land, and there's just no other way you can do it. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm starting here because it's kind of one of the more basic things to do as far as building with your terrain. But let's talk about building in your biome for a second. Now, obviously, a wooden cottage that looks like it's supposed to belong in a forest wouldn't exactly look in place here. Which, as you can see, Ixen's been busy building up, the city proper around here. He's added these buildings since the last time I was here, and I really like how everything is coming along. Everything's just sort of flowing off this central hub here, and it's looking really good. But the one thing that he's done is he's sort of stuck to this desert style, and like I said, this is a very, very basic example. And you can see here in our last episode when we talked about planning, he's gone ahead and sort of done some more planning. He's like, okay, this is where I want my next builds to be. So I also wanted to show you that because he has done some more, not just building and expanding, but he's done more planning as well. So he has a vision for the future. And those are all things that we covered in our last videos. But I wanted to start here to sort of touch on some of the very basic ideas that we wanted to cover in this video. But I will be taking us now to, let's head over to trees. And this place is a prime example of not only building with your terrain, but building inside your biome. Because, and not to say that you can't do crazy off the wall, wacky things that wouldn't make sense, in the real world, because you can. You totally can. And there's no rules. There's no real rules to building. You can do whatever you want to do. But most of what this series is focused on is building with a little sense of realism and planning things so that they sort of make sense in the real world, translated from Minecraft. So if you're not really into that, then ignore everything that I'm saying. But if you're here for that, keep listening. So what this is right here is all of these different tiers and these platforms and these layers. Basically, what's going on here is that they've taken this jungle idea and said, what would be really cool? To create like almost a indoor sort of Ewok village, and created up in the trees all these different tree houses. And I think that that's a perfect fit for this jungle biome. There's other things that could have happened, like, for instance, I talked about sometimes the terrain will not let you, and you just have to master the terrain. You have to demolish the terrain. Instead of doing this, they could have come over here, cleared out a whole bunch of trees, flattened some land, and created like a Mayan stone pyramid. Just It could have been anything. But the point is that they saw the biome and said, okay, this is what I want to build inside the biome to go with the biome. And you can see that they're using a lot of the jungle wood as well as other woods, but they're using the jungle wood to go along with the build because that's where it belongs. And one of the things that I do see is if you're trying to go for that realism, it's a really good idea to use the wood or the materials that are in the biome naturally in your build. And that's just sort of one of the little tips that I have is, if you are, oh, I love this. He's built up the marketplace some more. There's these little market stalls and with these villagers and such, which is great. Awesome. Going along really well. And then there's more even that leads. I didn't showcase this in one of my videos when I was showing you guys around the server, and I felt really bad because it's really worth seeing. And this is going to be like a big sort of colossal build. And you can see how they're using not only just the wood, but stone now, because it's going to be like a temple. But anyway, this is just sort of a prime example of utilizing not just the terrain and not just building inside the biome, but utilizing the very blocks of the biome in order to create the build and make it all sort of fit in together as one. And let's just back up here really quick and just sort of appreciate this for what it is. Doesn't that just look cool? It just looks pretty awesome if you ask me. And like I said, if this had been, I don't know, made out of quartz or whatever, it might have still looked cool, but it would have kind of looked out of place. You know what I'm saying? If it had been just this pearly white, crystalline looking build that looks like it probably should either be in like a snowy biome or maybe more of a fantasy build instead of being out here in the jungle. Maybe there would have been an explanation why they would have used that, but as far as that goes, I just think that this sort of comes together a lot nicer than just sort of, and again, you build whatever you want to build, whatever your heart tells you to build, you go for it. If it makes sense in your mind, then that's the only person's mind that it makes sense to. You can explain it to other people, and if they don't understand it still, well, then maybe they just need to use a little bit more imagination. But again, this series is more based in realism. I've said it once before in the video, I'll say it again. It's more about teaching you how to build with things and making them come to life. So let's talk about one more topic here, and save Dareth for last. So we've had examples of, bending the biome to your, building the biome and the terrain up to you, and we've had examples of just building completely inside the terrain and just going with the flow, which is what trees is all about. And in here, we have a little bit of both clearing and building up. Sometimes the terrain isn't right, and instead of clearing it down, like I've done in some of these places, you need to build it up. I'm still working on the mountain. It wasn't as big as last time, so it sloped down a good deal more. And I'm going to have to come in the back and expand it even more. But what the purpose of this is as I mentioned in another video, sometimes the build that you're trying to do, especially with this being a dwarven build, and I want it to sort of be dwarfed, no pun intended, by the mountain. The mountain just needed to be built up more, and that's what I'm steadily working on layer by layer as I'm building this up higher and higher, and eventually it'll be a nice sized mountain that will lead into the heart of the dwarven city. And as the sun going down on the server, I think I'm gonna leave it at that. I've touched on three different examples, three different points. Um, I hope that you found some of what I said to be useful and not just, pointless information or like, I already knew this. Well, if you already knew it, then great. This wasn't for you. But if you didn't know, or if you just hadn't really taken the time to think about it, then I hope that you took away, good, valid information from this and that it helps you in your future builds. So, until next time, guys, I'm Hawk Runehammer. Ixen should be joining me on the next one. But until then, I would like to say, have a good one and stay creative, stay positive.